Revolution, this is Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker, and I'm coming to you with a few minutes of truth, and let's get right into it. Bishop Tommy Dester Jakes, he is no dummy when it comes to this church game. While everybody else is looking around playing checkers, this man actually is playing chess with y'all. Revolution, people, Juanita Bynum. I've always felt that she was crazy, but she damn near schizophrenic now. Revolution, people. Seriously. When are we going to stop allowing Jamal Bryant to just be the embarrassment to the body of Christ that he is? Revolution, people. When you're sitting up here supposed to be the body of Christ and you're supposed to be the church in this situation, the church should be the lead. The government should be coming to the church to see how can we help you, not how you can help the government. Revolution, people, be the light of the world. We should be the light of the world. We should be where they come to look at that city on the hill. Our light should shine. Our light should be on that stand, not under the bushel. Joel Osteen, you should be the city on the hill, but you sit up there underneath your bushel in your $10 million house. It is what it is, people. All right, everyone. This is your boy, Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker. Revolution. Good evening, everyone. Revolution. This is Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker, and I'm still trying to get everything right and in tune with everything. You know, I see that the stream is a little lagging right now, a little more than usual. Just typing into the chat room to let people know what's going on. Hope you guys can see me. Let's get this together. Let's get this right. Let's get this together here tonight. Wow. It's been an interesting couple of weeks here on the Revolution, here with what I do on this social media and trying to get the word out about pimping and pimp preachers and everything like that. It's been a very interesting few days, a very interesting week. As you know, did not have a live stream last week for obvious reasons. Went out and enjoyed myself with my wife. Had seen Eric Roberson. Bad man. Enjoyed myself. So let's get started with this week, okay? This week is going to be not that long. I'm going to hit it, then I'm going to quit it. Reason being is there's really not much to say. This stuff is pretty obvious, okay? So there's really not much that's going on where I have to expound and have to give a lot of scripture or have to give a lot of word. It's just obvious today. So obvious that just going off on it and expounding on it could be a waste of time. That I'm not about, okay? I'm not about wasting your time. I'm about trying to educate and inform encourage you, the believers, you who are revolutionary in your thought. So that's what we're going to do tonight. Okay. So while I'm still vamping a little bit, go ahead, share this stream. Share it on Facebook, share it on your Instagram, share it however, your Twitter, you know. Do whatever you need to do, but get this out, and we're going to go ahead and go forth. If you didn't read this or see the preview, tonight we're going to talk about, I'm going to say a few words about Billy Graham's passing. There's a situation going on in Toledo that we're going to talk a little bit about. Crazy. It is crazy. Okay, that's all I can say on that one before I get to the story. Also, I'm going to talk about my old pastor friend here, William Curtis. I'm going to show you something that he posted up on his Instagram earlier this week, and I don't think he got it. Don't think he got it. And I'm going to talk about a little bit about that a little bit later. And the big story tonight, we're going to play this video that had gone viral of Apostle. Now, when we were covering him, he was just pastor, but I guess he's trying to do some other stuff. But Apostle, oh, that makes things much better for me. Wow, ain't that something with this light and bright. Apostle Gino Jennings. We're going to talk a lot about him later on this evening. We're going to go through that video. Many of you already seen the video. If you hadn't, trust me, it's worth watching. We're going to break it down. We're going to dissect it again. All right. So, without any further ado, first of all, I want to say thank you all for tuning in. I want to say thank you to C Double Music 34 on YouTube for providing the theme. I keep forgetting to announce him every week, and I need to do that more often. So let's get started. We're going to talk a little bit about the passing here of Billy Graham. Okay. Yes. All right. Billy Graham, as it was reported, passed away today at age 99. Okay, as it was reported, he passed away either today or last night, but he was 99. Many of you are familiar with the Billy Graham evangelical services that he used to have, where the man used to rent out baseball and football stadiums and have these massive church services, and they would claim that thousands upon thousands of people would get saved. And, you know, for the most part, and then he would also, those crusades from time to time would air on television, where he would buy local and national airtime, typically on a Saturday evening or a Sunday evening, but it was typically on the weekends. They would, you know, buy this airtime, and then they would broadcast these crusades, not on Christian television, mind you, but on regular television. Quickly, without disparaging the dead, I don't have much to say about Billy Graham personally. I did not follow him to the great extent that a lot of folk did. So a lot of people are given a lot of great words and a lot of great things, but one thing that kind of stands out to me is when given opportunity to be a more active, given the opportunity to take a more active role in the civil rights movement, See, Billy Graham was one of the first of these evangelicals that throughout the South had integrated services. He was one of the first. I guess he realized early on that black folk give offerings too. Okay? I guess he realized that early on, but he was one of the first that would have integrated services in the 50s. Back when there wasn't much integration going on. But as civil rights began to take shape in the late 50s into the 60s, Billy Graham basically took his ball and went home, or just sat it out. And I believe at the time when the civil rights movement was taking shape, had a nationally known, and at this time as well, he was a nationally known preacher, evangelist, doing those crusades, and was doing those crusades, you know, back in the 50s and 60s. It would have been a good deal for Christians right now, especially evangelicals, especially dealing with these evangelicals. It probably would have made a good statement had Billy Graham taken a more direct role in presenting, say, Martin Luther King to the masses. At least that's my thought, my opinion, from what I was reading about the Reverend Billy Graham. There were opportunities where he could speak up, and sometimes he would make statements and comments. Let me see if I could find one of these statements that he made. I don't know why this thing done died on me, but one of the statements that he made, hold on, let's see here, because I had that article and for some reason it went, oh, that's right, I took the article down because I wanted to find a picture. So just give me a quick second while I bring up that article real quick, because he said something very interesting. And this is something that I was reading today in the Guardian newspaper, as it related to, you know, like for instance, in 1963, when Martin Luther King penned his letter from a Birmingham jail, Graham told reporters that King should put the brakes on a little bit. When you're in the fight, there is no time to put brakes on. What we're putting the brakes on for? But I think a lot of folk will remember him as the preacher who had these long crusades on television. But we also have to remember that when given the opportunity, he chose the racist, racial status quo at the time instead of pushing for a more harmonious and a better situation. So now we bring that fast forward about 50 years, and his son, who is now basically taken over as the voice of the Grahams. And we can see, we talked about how earlier on this show, how Franklin basically gave Donald Trump a pass on his fornications and adulteries and, you know, all that other stuff. But we also see that a lot of the positions that Franklin holds and other evangelicals that were with and that were mentored by and that were all a part of this whole Graham situation, you know, was somewhat kind of bigoted as well. And I just wanted to leave that out there because I already know that on YouTube I'm going to get comments about, you know, how I'm going to speak bad about the dead, how he's not racist, how he's not this. But what my whole point of this is saying, when given an opportunity to be different than the others in the evangelical, in the Southern Baptist Church, who is full of racism, given the opportunity to be different, Billy Graham chose the racist status quo. That's all I'm saying about it. That's all I need to say about it. That's his choice. You know, and I'm not saying anything to whether I'm going to put him in hell or heaven or anything like that. You know, I know a lot of folk put him in heaven. I don't do that. Okay. That's not my place. That's, you know, people say I judge too much. Well, that's part of the judgment that I don't do. That I do not judge, okay? However, you know, he says he's a believer. I believe that he says he's a believer. And I'll just leave it at that. All right. Okay. Let me pull this up. Okay. All right. Once again, this is Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker, and a crazy, crazy story. Now, I know these are mugshots, right? I know these are mugshots, but man, I'm gonna try to get my lighting a little bit better here. Push this back. I don't know why this had it. Try to get up underneath this light, make it a little bit better here. Okay. Now, this guy and his wife, right? This is Anthony Morris and his wife, Zelda Morris. Now, this story right here is crazy, okay? And it's very simple. Anthony Morris is the senior pastor of St. Paul AME Zion Church in Toledo, Ohio. This past Sunday, his wife, Zelda, pictured here, and their daughter, who is, I believe, 19. Now, she's not pictured. She's just a kid, but they're all charged with aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon and a first-degree felony. Now, what had happened? Let's go ahead and break this down. What had happened was there was a Nakima Turner. Nakima Turner was teaching Sunday school Sunday school at the church. The church being St. Paul's AME Zion Church. When the 19-year-old Camila grabbed her by the hair and began to start pushing and shoving at her, punching at her. Then Zelda, oh, there we go. Zelda right here, she started punching Miss Turner. As she was punching Miss Turner, the younger one and Miss Turner, the younger one grabs her purse and begins to dump the purse onto the floor. And as all this is going on, as the wife is beating up Miss Turner, Anthony, the senior pastor, pulls out his gun and points it at her and threatens to kill her. Allegedly. Now, here's the thing. What they said they did was they took 2 prescription bottles, a taser, and a cell phone. Now, when all this stuff is, we got to understand this too, from what I read in the story, in another story, that Miss Turner was not only teaching Sunday school, but she had her own children in the class. So now, she, after the situation went down, she's running, trying to get her kids and stuff together, and she runs out the church. Now, these two are sitting up here arrested on these charges. Now, both of them are being held. Trying to find out. Now, they're both being held on $75,000. I've been looking to try to see if they have made bail, but according to this report, they did not make bail. They're being held on that. But something tells me that, well, let me ask this. Why are you going, pastors, why are you going after a woman and taking things from her purse? Now, to me, doesn't that seem like a pimp move? And then y'all sit up here and wonder why we call them pimp preachers. This man sat up there and did a pimp move. Something tells me that this pastor sat up there, was teaching tithing and teaching how you need to pay your tithes if you want to work in this church. Now, I know I'm speculating. I know I am, because I don't have anything of what he taught or anything like that. But this seems to fit the mold, people. Come on, just go with me on this. And it was time for her to pay up. Yeah, it was time for her to pay up. Hey, shout out. Somebody from England in the house. Shout out, brother. But it seems like it's time to pay up. What are we doing here? What? So that's what's going on in the streets too? I was looking for something like that, and I didn't see that, Tracy. Thank you. So he was actually having an affair with the Sunday school teacher? That kind of explains it too. Still pimp move. Still pimping. Still a pimp move. Wow. Yeah, sometimes I didn't get a chance to go ahead and look on the streets. I just looked at what was in the newspaper. It was just in the newspaper. I'm looking at the Toledo Blade and trying to follow up on, I'm trying to follow up on that other thing in Toledo about the other pimps in Toledo. That's why I'm still going through this page when I saw this story. So yeah, this stuff is crazy. So now we have these two. I'm not sure if they're still behind bars, but looks like some pimp move stuff to me, some pimping stuff to me. But yeah, still trying to follow up on that other Toledo case that's been going on, because some of that stuff should be happening real rapidly when it comes down to court hearings and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to keep up, and that's when I going through the page, I saw this on the page in the Toledo Blade. So interesting today, interesting. Anthony and Zelda Morris, and you gonna sit up there and pimp this woman, pimp her. Y'all just pimping. It is what it is, people. And just crazy. How are you gonna sit up there and it's in the middle of Sunday school, right? It's in the middle of Sunday school, and and typically she's a kid Sunday school teacher, and you're a pastor, and the first lady and the daughter are going after this one woman that apparently he's sleeping with now. Interesting. Now, when you look at these mug shots, they look kind of, it is what it is. It is what it is. All right, let's move on. Now, this is William Curtis, and if you're not familiar, I spent an entire live stream on him a couple weeks ago. The live stream was about how William Curtis is still currently driving a $250,000 car while he is pastoring the Mount Airy Baptist Church, which resides in the poorest neighborhood in the city of Pittsburgh. Now, what I didn't report to you on last Wednesday, when I did the live stream, was I was watching just about 10 minutes of the live stream broadcast from the Sunday prior. And during that service, they had visitors stand, and I caught the middle of 5 young people. They were standing up when I got into the live stream, and he was talking with them. And come to find out, they were students. They were from, I believe, Philadelphia. They were students that had just came up and started the new semester at the University of Pittsburgh. Okay. So during the course of that interaction, just like how a lot of pastors like to play the game, he basically, first of all, puts one of the main one talking, because there was some form of relationship of a church that they weren't to in Philadelphia, and how that church, basically that pastor and William Curtis have some sort of relationship. And because of that, they basically said that this one guy is now a pastor of the contingent from the University of Pittsburgh. And the people were clapping, they were happy and everything like that. And I was like, okay, whatever, that was part of the game. Then the next part of the game stood up where he was basically saying, well, are y'all hungry? Okay, and we're like, okay, like, are you hungry? What y'all doing after church? Are you getting something to eat? Okay, no, we're going to have you eat here. We're going to have you eat, not here per se, but we're going to get you something to eat. So then they basically said meet after church or whatever, and they went to feed them. Well, this Sunday, same kids came back to church, and they came back to church, and he put up on his Instagram page, him, or not him, but the church providing them food. Let's go look into that real quick. So he went and gave the church was providing them food. Now this is off of his Instagram page, and I learned how to do web pages too, because Instagram, I can't get a video off of Instagram for nothing. But I learned I could do web pages on my software, so I'm happy about that. But this is what we see from this. Now, as the video is playing, you know, just quick PowerPoint. There he is right there talking with the students. Students are down there in their little conference room, you know, eating food, having fellowship just with them. Nice little picture here. You know. Now, let me pause. I could just let that roll because it's a PowerPoint slide. Now, in general, this isn't really a bad thing. You know, it's not that bad of a thing. It's just, it is what it is. But here's the situation that I don't think that he gets. Okay? See, these kids right here, they got meal plans of some sort, because they college kids. You know, now what he did exactly, Rhonda, this is all for the show of the necessity of how he's trying to justify that he does have something for the community. Okay? That he has something for the community, that the church is welcoming of those in the community. Now, first of all, you have to understand this, is that logistically of where the church is compared to the campus of Pittsburgh is roughly about 4 miles away. Now, with it being about 4 miles away, it is, you know, you have a lot of different neighborhoods, but for the most part, where Oakland is, you know, where the Pitt students are, is not necessarily the most, you know, it's not necessarily the rich spot, but there's a lot of richness over there because there's a lot of places where the professors and doctors that work in Oakland, they live in these. There's a spot in Oakland. If you're in Pittsburgh, there's a spot in Oakland in Shady Side, in Squirrel Hill. There's a place where they all meet, right? I could take you behind some trees and you want to see some big houses, some castles that nobody really knows unless you know that's up there. That's another thing. But I didn't want to talk about the wealth. I'm just trying to tell you that these kids, they got meal plans. But the people who live right outside the church, on Mayflower Street, on Paulson Avenue, on Auburn Street, on Meadow Street, on Woodlow, there's a lot. Winslow. I'm sorry, not Whitlow, but Winslow. There are a lot of folk up in that neighborhood that ain't got no meal plans. And they struggling. They ain't getting this buffet here. See this buffet? See that? They ain't getting no buffet. I'll get this playing again for you. Now, they ain't getting no buffet. They not sitting in no conference room. They not trying to fellowship. All they trying to do is just struggle to eat. But yet, the show that we have right here. See, this is what I'm saying. William Curtis does not get it. He still doesn't get it. This was not about how nice you can be to some college folk. Because if you notice about this situation, it's not like Mount Eric went and got those kids. People, let's be real. Mount Eric didn't go and get those kids. Those kids went to Mount Eric. It wasn't the other way around. So, of course, you're given an opportunity to take advantage of this situation. Of course, what you're going to do, you're going to take advantage of it to take some heat off of you as it relates to your $250,000 car. Doesn't get it. The issue that I've been trying to lay forward with William Curtis compared to the issue that I've been trying to lay forward from what was going on is this, is that the church itself, and I've said this about Lakewood during the floods, y'all know that's what the whole, that whole intro, basically confronting Joel Osteen about being the light, the city on the hill, that light that's not being hid under the bushel. Again, you're sitting up there in a church that is supposed to be the light of that community, but once you get in, but you have to go inside those walls. And if you look at how the church looks, and I should have pictures of Mount Eric Church, because the way that the church looks, it looks like some sort of fortress. And I know that's not a great thing to say, but it's the truth. And it looks like if you're on the outside, you're not welcomed in. Now, I'm not saying that the people are not welcoming, I'm not saying that the people are nice, but it's just that aura of a church that it takes up an entire city block, that because it takes up that entire city block and all those people come into the neighborhood, they're taking up the parking spots. They're sitting up there, coming in and leaving out without leaving anything for the community. People need a light. They need to see a light. Stop this bushel stuff, people. We need to see lights in our church. If you are in a community and you know that it's a shame. You go to city after city, there will be churches on blocks right across the street from each other, next door to each other. And yet, they'll be in the places where there's the highest crime, there's the greatest poverty, and it seems like they're only open on Sundays and maybe a Bible study night of Wednesday night, and if they have a choir rehearsal. And that's basically all that you see of them. See, this is cool for them. Only 6 people. And they get a good catered spread. This is the show to try to take the heat off of you getting a $250,000 car. See, I understand game and I understand church game. I understand it and I've seen it, and this is the perfect example of it. Now, this cool that these kids got it, but listen, guess what? On Monday, these kids, they're gonna wake up. They're gonna wake up in whatever dormitory they're in. They're gonna walk across the way to the student union, to that cafeteria. They're gonna show their little what do they call those pit cards? I think they're like their pit ID, and they're gonna get a meal. On Monday, right around the corner, up on Mayflower Street, them kids there, as they're going to the bus stop to go to school, they're gonna be lucky. In some cases they may have breakfast. Some cases they won't. But these kids will. You know, these kids will. We don't know about if it's a gift yet. I think he just went and bought the car. But that's basically what we got for that. Hey guys, give me a few minutes because we're going to get to the next situation. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to get myself some water. I'm going to get some of this other video stuff up and ready to go so that we can get right into the main story of the night. And then I'm going to go ahead, when I come back, I'm going to read some of your texts, some of your chat messages in the chat room. Thank you all for hanging out there. Let me know what you think, what we're saying. So if you got any other comments that you want read, go ahead and go to the chat room. And just like I said, just give me a few minutes and we're going to go ahead and be right back.
Revolution, this is Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker, and I'm coming to you with a few minutes of truth, and let's get right into it.
Like
Bishop Tommy Dexter Jakes, he is no dummy when it comes to this church game.
There we go.
Revolution, this is your boy Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker, and hopefully I can get a little bit better light here. All right.
When you hear this one, it's serious.
As I read that, especially if I fed all the hungry people in my zip code, I said bullshiggity. Bullshiggity. Okay? Alright, because here's the problem. Here's the problem, Bishop Jesus. See, if Jesus actually had the resources that Thomas Dexter Jakes had he had all these resources that Tommy has, I think Jesus would feed everyone in that zip code, and in the zip code next to it, and in the zip code next to that, in the zip code next to that. See, here's the thing about ministry, people. What Bishop Jakes is talking about in this article, that's the church. But see, the body of Christ don't need any of that. Body of Christ don't need to worry about incomes, don't need to worry about stuff. They can just do what God called for them to do. But Jakes, on the other hand, wants you to believe that that millionaire doesn't have enough money to sit up there to feed the people in his zip code. Multi-millionaire, 9-figure millionaire, doesn't have enough money to feed the people in his zip code. This is your boy, Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker.
Yeah, I forgot. Turn off the mic. I always forget to do that. All right, let's get started on it. I was reading some of your chat, and I guess no one could hear because I was actually going through the chat spot. So, real quick. Yeah, this is serious damage control. But that's what Curtis is doing. It is what it is. Okay. Now, I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with him. This is Gino Jennings. Now, Gino Jennings, I believe he's a pastor out of Philadelphia. Yeah, he is a pastor in Philadelphia. And his church, I believe, is what I think he's called it, the First Church of the Lord of our Lord Jesus Christ. I think that's the name of the church. But what has gotten him in some interesting situations is his blending of somewhat like he's trying to make his church in the image of the Nation of Islam. So basically, he's having a lot of the Nation of Islam influences inside of a so-called Christian church. A lot of his teachings is especially on Pimp Preacher, you'll find a lot of Gino Jennings reports on the pimppreacher.com, on the old pimppreacher.com situation. Because TJ, when he was doing it, he saw a lot of parallels between what Gino Jennings was talking about and his old situation as being a member of the Nation of Islam. So he saw it as a serious threat. So he stayed up on it for a long time. And it just seems like right about now there's this situation where a video this week went kind of viral that a lot of folk were watching. And yeah, I'll just put that over. Yeah, so it was a video that went viral. And in this video, we're going to watch it in its entirety. Then I'm going to go ahead and replay back and, you know, dissect it a little bit. This is nothing new. It's just that he says the word hoe this time. And that's the least of the concerns that you can actually take out of it. Now, mind you, that this is only a 90-second video. With it being 90 seconds, excuse me, with it being 90 seconds, we know that it is we are out of context in a way. But there's not much of context that needs to be said for what was being said in this 90 minutes. So I already know that the people who are Jennings supporters, that's one of the things they're going to say. Yeah, you're taking it out of context. Well, we already know that. Already know that. But this situation here, really? He challenged Tony Smith to a debate? Oh, that I don't know. But if that's true, that would be, oh my God. That YouTube video would be hilarious. Both of them in the same. Okay. Let me stop. Let me get back focused. I got to get focused. Now, this is nothing new for us. Like I said, we've been following him for years. And here's one of the things that, and I'm just going to read a little bit of this. from our website on pimppreacher.com, where I got this picture from. Because he wants to deal with a lot of these relationship things, and what we're finding out is that there were a lot of men who loved. I'm gonna have to check that out. I'm gonna have to check that video out. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to check that video out. I just could imagine. And please tell me, did they both have readers? That would be so great. Oh my God, that would be so great. Oh, that would be awesome. Oh my God, that would be great. Anyways, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Let me. I'll look. Don't put the link up in the chat room, because then that means people are going to start hitting that link. Don't do that. Look it up on your own time, you know, after this, because that's what I'm going to do when I get done with this. I'm going to look that up. All right. So, what we were finding out, along with his teachings, was he was attracting a lot of men to the church, which is somewhat weird, but he was attracting a lot of men to his church and forcing men and women to the church. Basically, men and their wives, and they were bringing their wives to the church and having them fall into this subjection. Now, if you notice, you'll notice in the video when I play it, the women sit on one side of the room, the men sit on the other side of the room, just like how the Nation of Islam does it. And most of the women in there had some sort of head covering, just like the women in the Nation of Islam. So when he talks about the women, you have to know this, that the women there, whether their husbands are there, whether their fathers brought them there, they are under this subjection. And I'm not sure if they're under this subjection of their own free will. We'll deal with that in a minute when we get to the video. But there were women who came out to us back in 2014 when we wrote this article, one of these articles, who came out and basically was saying, "Hey, this stuff is crazy. My husband joined." One quote in an email said, "My husband joined Gino Jennings' church. He began to hate everything about me, from my hair to my choice of shoes. Everything that he once loved about me became whorish, even though I never dressed like a hoe in my life. Since I refuse to dress like I live in Iraq, he feels that we are no longer compatible. This transformation took place over a period of 90 days. Only 90 days for him to suggest that we go our separate ways." Now, I'm reading this quote from a woman who emailed the Church Folk Revolution back in 2014. It is now 2018. And a lot of y'all, the way that this video was going viral, a lot of y'all didn't know about Gino Jennings, right? And didn't know that this is how he got down. This is how he gets down. So it's no question on what he says. It's no question. Nothing with Gino Jennings had changed in the past 4 to 5 years, or in the past 20 years, actually, as it relates to his view of women. So let's go ahead. Let's go ahead, so that I won't be too long. Let's go ahead and look at that. I forgot to take this down. Hold on. Hold it. There we go. Let's take that off. And let's get to this thing here. Let's get to... here we go. Now, mind you, when we're watching this, what we're going to find is that it's going to be somewhat maybe offensive. So, if that's, you know, harsh language, you got kids that you may not want to hear this, I'm letting you know now. Do something with the kids or whatever, but I'm just giving you this warning because, you know, he will say some things that will be offensive to you probably. So, here we go.
That's right.
You so-called Christian-looking whores.
That's it.
Jumping in some church, flapping your ankle chains around, all on the choir, breasts hanging out, lips all red, nails painted red, purple, blue, green, long like bird claws, all this fake hair, breast implants, toenails painted with little fake diamonds in it. Your toes ain't richer. You're nothing but a prostitute.
Amen.
Yeah, man?
Wonderful, beautiful.
Go ahead, go to church now. Go to church. Got nothing but a singing hoe, a shouting hoe, a organ playing hoe, a choir director hoe. Hey, preacher. If what I just said describe your wife, you're married to a hoe.
Amen.
Am I right, sir? Talk to me.
Yes, sir. Amen. Yes, sir. Wonderful.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
A man that's a real man don't want his wife out in the street looking like a prostitute. And you a holy woman?
Amen.
Or claim you's a Christian? Christian with skin-tight pants, showing the very shape of your birth canal. Going to some church with the shape of your birth canal exposed in public and jeans all up the backside of your behind, carrying a Bible.
That's right.
Going to church.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we're going to check this out in a second. Let me bring myself up a little bit. We're going to rewatch this, but look at the women. None of them got up and walked out. Now, they probably think that he's not talking about them, but no, he is talking about y'all. He's talking about even from the old one that's sitting right up there in the front to the young ones that are sitting closer to the back that you see in the frame. He's talking to all these women. It is something about a man who believes that a woman, that women who dress a certain way, right? And if you look at these women, they're all dressed very similar in their approach to their dress. They're all in white. Maybe that's a thing, but they all, like I said, all their heads are covered. You know, it's something to be said about a man who sits back there, and these Christian men who sit up there and will basically say that a woman, by the way that she's dressed, she is in fact a prostitute, a hoe, if you wills, but a prostitute, a hoe, a whore. Remember this quote that I just read. Once my husband joined Gino Jennings' church, he began to hate everything about me. From my hair to my choice of shoes, everything that he once loved about me became whorish, and even though I never dressed like a hoe in my life, Since I refuse to dress like I live in Iraq, he feels we are no longer compatible. That is a quote from a woman that we got an email from 5 years ago. About 5 years ago. Nothing has changed. If this man, we're going to go through it and I'm going to start it up again. Let me go ahead and get the video going again so that I can sit up here and hit pause and start. But let's start it again.
That's right.
You so-called Christian-looking whores. Jumping in some church, flapping your ankle chains around, all on the choir, breasts hanging out, lips all...
Now, let's get mindful of what he's just said. First of all, he's talking about one of those old school symbols that when you were a lady of the evening, prostitute, whore, whatever, one of the common things that you can tell is the anklet. Okay, that's an old school trick. So when you walked into a bar, right? When you walked into a bar and you saw a young lady sitting up there at the bar by herself, if she had like an anklet on, some little, anklet, little bracelet around the ankle, then that would actually suggest, that she would be available to you for the evening. That's old school. This is old school guy. So, Rhonda, you're not supposed to do the show for me. You're not supposed to do the show for me. You're not supposed to do it for me. You're not supposed to do it for me. She just said, give it a year or two, he'll be uncovered for raping women. How are you supposed to sit up there and give my conclusion before I even get to it? Man. All right. Now I got to get back on it. Okay. So the anklet would let the men know about the women who would be available. Okay. So he's going down the line of all these things that seem to make women hoish. Lack of a better word. It's not that, it just seems like, let's continue on for a second. Hold on. Let's continue on.
Red, nails painted red, purple, blue, green, long like bird claws, all this fake hair, breast implants, toenails painted with little fake diamonds in it. Your toes ain't richer. You're nothing but a prostitute.
Now, he can boldly say that and boldly claim it, right? Here's the sad part about it, is he really hates women. I honestly believe that if you are a woman and you don't look like those women in there, this man hates you. If it doesn't look like these men, these people here that's in that church that he forced, they didn't choose to dress like that. Nobody chooses to dress like that. They were manipulated into dressing like the way that they are. I'm going to get to that when I forgot. I'm jumping ahead. That's it right there. See, none of y'all are choosing to dress like this. Y'all are dressing like this because you were manipulated and brainwashed into doing it. Now, I honestly believe this too, that the women aren't saying anything because they're told, per a discussion that we were having on Facebook anyways, but I believe that they're told that they're not to speak in church. And that silence doesn't necessarily mean that they're in agreement or lack of agreement. They just can't do nothing. They can't agree. They can't disagree. We know they ain't disagreeing. So ain't nobody get up. And here's the sad part about it. I believe that they are desensitized to it. I believe that they sat up there and listened to this rhetoric for years. Been listening to this rhetoric for years. And it's just another Sunday. They can't do anything about it because their husbands is here and they love their husband. They can't do nothing about it because their daddy brought them there and they love their daddy. They can't do nothing about it because this is their third generation of whoever, and they believe, and then they're forced to believe that he offers the way to God. That's right. It's spiritual abuse. This is if you're looking at the picture of abuse and manipulation, I'm just getting to that too, Lloyd. Y'all jumping ahead of me. Stop jumping ahead. When you want to see the picture of abuse, look no further. This is what abuse looks like. This right here is what abuse looks like. And I could care less about him calling folk hoes or whatnot, because all of this, because those women that are sitting there, guess what? He sees you too as a hoe. You can have your hat on, you can have your rag on, you can have your dress all the way up to your neck and your skirt all the way down to your ankles. And guess what? What we're going to sit up there and find out, and I know Rhonda said it earlier, right? But what we're going to find out, and I believe it to be true, stories are probably going to come out that Gino is sitting up there sleeping, abusing these women. Raping, I'm not sure, but it probably should be rape because they were manipulated into doing it. Under any other circumstances, they weren't. See, this is the thing I tell you about preachers. When preachers get these control issues and they want control, basically what they want to do is to control your time, your money, and your bodies. And all that this thing here is saying to the women, that I have your time, I'm going to take your, I don't know about the money, but I definitely have your bodies. And I'm doing what I want with your bodies by telling you, you have to wear these hats and these scarves. You have to wear these dresses that go way down to the bottom of the floor. You know. Hold on. Somebody said something. Yeah, sometimes the sensitivity in the chat room goes, and I just want to make sure that some of this stuff goes up. So, yeah. You have this situation going on where you're looking at these women. And I really want you women to know that he doesn't give a damn about you. He really doesn't. Because if he actually cared about you, he wouldn't be worried so much about whether or not how you're dressed. Here's the other thing too. I always find this so interesting about men who are so fixated on how a woman should dress. Because when a woman dresses as a prostitute, hoe, whore, whatever, that that woman, you know, that she deserves whatever the treatment that she gets because of the way she's dressed. No, that's not right. It's funny how these men put the onus on the women. They put the onus on the women as their fault for causing men to stumble. No. Brother, listen. Jesus said that if your eye offends you, pluck it out. It doesn't matter what your eye sees. If your eye offends you, pluck it out. A lot of y'all sitting up here, a lot of these folks sitting up here, well, why are we worried about whether or not people are dressing? And you know, why are we? Here's the thing. If you're like, people still honestly believe, and this is a sad part, there are some people that still believe that if you are raped, that you shouldn't have wore a short skirt, or like he talks about, wear tight jeans to where it shows the shape of your birth canal. Brother, how do you know what the shape of a birth canal is, bruh? You looking that hard? I understand, but the problem is that it's not her fault. You're the one that got to deal with your own lust. You're the one that got to deal with your own misogyny. You're the one that got to deal with all that. It's not the woman's fault. It's not the woman's fault. Okay? Oh. They saying he here or something? Oh, okay. I was just looking at that. Interesting. But Gino Jennings, this is the thing. The hatred that is being displayed, it's not going to shock me. Because typically, those who are the loudest, and that it would shock me. I mean, that's part of the reason why Malcolm X was killed. He found out some things about Elijah Muhammad, that while he's supposed to be living this holy and righteous life, that this holy and righteous life here, come to find out, Elijah Muhammad was living another life. Caused some contradiction there. And it caused Brother Malcolm to find his own way. And because he found his own way and was going to start up something new on the first day, on the first time that he started up his new thing, they sat up there and killed him. Yeah, that happened on this day. It's very similar to what we're seeing here. Very similar. Very similar. So it wouldn't shock me, and it shouldn't shock any of you, that going forward, we find a big scandal out of Gino Jennings' church. And I would encourage any of you sisters in there that we see right here, that if he has been any inappropriate with you, holla at your boy. Oh, we will put him on blast. Please. Please. We will put him on blast, people. So let's do this. So if you know, and I know, and I can keep your identity safe. All we need to do is just work out some things to get some things going, and that'll help you out on that. We can get something done, or at least try to. this right here is a mess with Gino Jennings. And I'm just, let me finish this up real quick and then see if there's something else I want to say something before we go.
Go to church now. Go to church. Got nothing but a singing hoe, a shouting hoe, a organ playing hoe, a choir director hoe. Hey, preacher. If what I just said describe your wife, you're married to a hoe.
Now, see, as a husband of a, as a husband, debate his point. Okay. Yvonne, debate what point? I'm just looking at the chat room. Go ahead and tell me, debate what point. But being that I'm married and you're over the pulpit just talking about someone, what about your wife? I mean, come on now. We don't need to be talking about folks' wives. For what? This is ridiculous. You're ridiculous. And every man in that church should have stood up and smacked the mess out of him for saying that his wife is a hoe. You can't go too far with all that. But anyways, this is the Gino Jennings video, and I know it took some time up, and I just wanted to let folk know that really he ain't say nothing new. He ain't say nothing new. We got reports from him, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. It's the same deal, same thing. I'm just kind of like, it is what it is. I just encourage all of you that if you see this man or whatever, and we didn't even get into like his bad teachings. Same with Tony Smith. They're both terrible. But let's guard ourselves on who and what we're watching as it relates to these folk. I can't believe you sit up here calling people's wives hoes. All those women that were sitting in that audience, a lot of those women were married. And the sad part about it is this: your image of a woman, and if you feel threatened, that's the other thing too. And I meant to say this earlier. Brother man threatened by the fact that a woman can be all that and dress the way that she is. And here's the thing, for a lot of men that harp on this stuff, that dress and the way, that individuality that women display when it comes to their beauty or whatnot, it is a source of power, empowerment. And what Jennings is basically demonstrating or trying to get and convey is that not only does he have control over the women, but he has that the women do not have any power. That's the problem. That's another thing I meant to say earlier. That those women there, they are weak. They have no power. They have no authority. They have nothing. And all they have is what he gives them. And you know what? What y'all need to realize is that's pimping. A pimp, basically, and a pimp will sit up there and tell his hoes that they are hoes and to act accordingly. And basically, this is the same thing. Gino Jennings is basically pimping out those women, pimping them out to their own husbands. Now, that's deep. Gino Jennings is pimping out those women to their own husbands. Because they got to meet up to a certain standard in order to be with their husbands. I just read to you a testimony of how, because she didn't want to be under that control and that subjection, that he left his wife. At least according to the email, that he left his wife. Woo! Gino. Crazy. I didn't want that one. There we go. Crazy. All right. Yeah, let's get to this. And yeah, a lot of mind control stuff. Let me look, because somebody was talking about trying to go to the church. Well, pretty soon, actually, that might end. There's a possibility that could happen. There's a possibility that it could happen of me going to the church, but I really couldn't deal with that. I'd end up getting kicked out, and I don't want to, that part of Philly, I don't want to be kicked out in Philly, so it's a possibility. I know that there was a talk of going to go see the brother a few years ago. I thought there was talk about it, but I don't know if we ever decided to do anything about it on that level. But this guy is not a good dude. And here's the thing, though. He has the, he basically, I like it when I do this because it brightens me up a little bit. But Gino is the type of preacher that will say and do the stuff to get the attention. But let's be clear. Let's be very clear. A lot of your pastors feel very similar to Gino. And if they had the temerity and the balls to get away with it, guess what? They would do it too. Just remember that. Pretty soon we're coming up on the 25th anniversary of the raid on Waco. And I was just thinking about this, and I'm about ready to close. We're coming up on that 25th anniversary, and it's interesting that the raid on the Branch Davidian actually happened. I believe it happened on my birthday. I believe it was April 18th, 1993. And it'll be 25 years since then. And I want to, next month, I want to start visiting that situation. In the same way that we need to remember, not only need to remember David Koresh, but we also need to remember like Jim Jones. We need to remember these people, not as to celebrate these men, but as a cautionary tale that how far a cult can go, how far mind control can go, to where you have situations where things go down. Now, as I'm starting to look into this, this David Koresh thing, the government, they messed up. in a lot of ways they messed up. You know, like you know, barring the press, also you know, keeping, like for instance, when the fire happened, you know, they got it, like from what I understand, they killed the folk first, then they set that place on fire, and then they just let that MFer burn. They just let it burn. They let it burn to the ground with all those folk in, you know, all those dead folk in there. And instead of and from what I understand, there wasn't. I don't think there was like too many survivors from the compound. And if there were, I'm not sure how that worked out. I have to look into it a little bit more. But what, 70 people, 71 people perished that day. Ugh. But it's something to look into, because some of y'all don't understand, and this is the correlation. I'm bringing this up to make this understanding for you, is you're only like 1 or 2 degrees if you belong to a church, whether it is a charismatic church, Pentecostal church. You're only about 2 degrees away from David Koresh. Your pastor is only about like yo far from taking your congregation to that David Koresh level, because a lot of y'all teach the same stuff. Y'all believe in the same way of being unchecked, being unaccountable. That's where the problems lie. The more that I'm looking into these churches, the more I'm finding out that the biggest problem in the church is, it all stems from the lack of accountability. Because you can root everything. Somebody in Gino Jennings' church back 30 whatever, when he started pastoring that church, he said something off-footing about 30 years ago, and it didn't ring well with somebody sitting in that church. So instead of that person confronting Gino about what Gino said, that person probably picked up their stuff and left the church. Meanwhile, all the rest of the folk that's in there so enamored with Gino that they followed along with what Gino had to say. Lack of accountability. That person that was there for accountability heard what was wrong, and instead of confronting him, bounced. Or if he did confront him, got bounced. One or the other. But it's a lack of accountability that enables the situations that we have today. All right. We're gonna get on out of here. But this is this time, and the video that I have today just came up. One of our revolutionaries tagged me in this video, and I was like, wow, this is interesting. And I figured, since we're gonna be talking about women and their clothing, it's a short video, by the way. Since we're gonna talk about women and their clothing, I thought that this would, you know, when I was talking about Gino Jennings, I was like, this was going to be perfect for today. But let me go ahead and get back over there. Got to take off the Gino Jennings video. I know Gino Jennings is right there, but hold on, Gino. All right, now for today's moment of levity. Let me find that slide for the moment of levity slide. There we go. All right, for today's moment of levity, and I just want to say, first of all, thank you all for tuning in today to the Revolution live stream. If you loved what you heard tonight, please don't be afraid to share it, to like the video. When rewatch it later on. Hell, get some views up on this thing. Rewatch it, share the video, subscribe to the channel, You know, I appreciate everyone in the chat room. I appreciate everyone who's watched this. And if you're watching this on the replay later on, you know, I thank you all for giving me this time. I know 90 minutes is valuable to you. Trust me, 90 minutes is valuable to me. So I do thank you all for that. Next Wednesday, I figured something out. I will probably be at around this time, which is about 9 o'clock. 8 o'clock is just too early. Because, you know, just trying to get home in time, you know, finish up dinner and then trying to prepare for the show. I end up pushing it back anyway. So next week and going forward, it'll be probably about 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're in a different time zone, just know that I put up 9 o'clock. I throw the live stream up at probably at 9 o'clock Eastern. Okay. Now, talking about women in their clothing. Let's see what happens. Let me take me out of here real quick. Let's see what happens when you have Beyonce doing your praise and worship. Let's see what that looks like. Good night, everyone, and revolution.
You